All right, I guess no intro video for this one because it is a crossover episode. I forgot we don't do those on the crossovers. It's Alex Barth with Taylor Kyles and Brian Hines coming to you after the Patriots' second minicamp practice and spring practices as a whole wrapping up. That's right. We are, well, after the show, officially in the dead period of the NFL calendar with the next big event being training camp at the end of July, which we got those dates today. That will be on July 23rd. But we'll have plenty of more time coming for training camp, for minicamp. We're going to kind of go back through the spring as a whole, minicamp and OTAs, but just real quick here off the top, since there was a practice today, and it was, to me, very similar to what we've seen throughout the spring. But Brian, just anything from today's practice specifically that stood out to you?
Just not as clean as a performance on the offense. You know, they were back in the red area, and it wasn't as, crisp as it was yesterday. And, we were 3 or 4 straight practices we were at where it was, trending in a positive direction for that unit, and just not as good today. And I thought, pressure really for the second straight day, they dealt with a lot of pressure and didn't handle it as well. So we'll talk, I'm sure, about the retirement at left guard, but, maybe still some question marks along that offensive line there at the end of minicamp.
Taylor?
I actually had to kind of rephrase how I wrote my main storyline, because at first it was, Drake Maye and the offense cooled down, which was part of it. But I also wanted to just give some deference to the defense. Like, this is a veteran unit with a lot of talent across the board. We knew that going in, just needed to see how the pieces were going to fit. Maybe obviously some question marks with injuries and things like that. But I think that what we've seen today was what we really should be expecting because of how good this defense is. And, especially once they start getting a feel for what the offense likes to do, it's just going to be easier for this group of veterans who, again, are very good players. It's not like the offense struggling is an indictment on them necessarily. That said, hopefully that just gives them a little extra motivation to come back in training camp and hit them back in the mouth because they got dominated today.
Yeah, the interception today, and Drake had said yesterday he's going to test Christian Gonzalez, and he did. And Gonzalez passed the test. There was zero window. It was a go ball to Kyle Williams up the right sideline, just zero window. And Gonzalez made the pick, and to a certain extent, it is the defense making plays too, certainly. So that was kind of the highlights from today. Yeah, I think, Drake Maye, not as good as he was the last 2 practices when I thought he really found his rhythm. Not as bad as that 4 interception practice. I think today it was just him naturally being a little bit erratic, which is how he plays, versus those early practices. It felt like he was getting along with learning the playbook and just everything felt slow. Like he was really working through it because he was. So we can start there. We'll kind of just go position by position, a thought from each of us for the spring. And then maybe at the end, if this is quick, which we know us, it won't be, but if it is, we'll leave 5 minutes if people want to throw names in the chat of players we didn't talk about, because I always feel bad. People are tweeting at me, you talked about this guy, but what about these 3 guys? It's a 90-man roster. There's a lot of players to get to. But I guess I'll start, and that'll be my opening thought at quarterback, that I just think Drake Maye, it's a learning curve for him with the Josh McDaniels offense. I think he got more comfortable as the spring went on. I don't think he's all the way there, but I think he started picking it up, which is an encouraging sign, Taylor.
I mean, I was talking to Brian about this at Gillette, but I think it would probably be easier for him to pick up this offense than the West Coast, because the West Coast is a lot of memorization. It's not really things that make sense. It's very long verbiage. It's a lot of numbers and things that tie in. So, I think it could be a little, not necessarily like dragging things like that, but I do think that in this Earhart-Perkins where concepts are kind of just funneled into single words where it's easier to communicate. And the concepts, a lot of them are the same. The Patriots have always run a lot of West Coast type systems. That's the death by 1,000 cuts offense. Where does that stem from? The West Coast. And I think we've seen that. Today, there were a ton of times where he had to hold on to the ball, where he had to throw it one of his last reads. But he doesn't look sped up. He just is oh, he's not there. And then the play kind of breaks down because no one gets open. But I have yet to feel like he's uncomfortable or feels like he's having trouble picking up the offense. For me, it's just, the Drake Maye, every few games, he's going to have some really ugly and weird misses. And I don't think they were as ugly as that 4 interception day and even the day after that, which I thought was actually a little bit worse. But there were some plays that I thought he could have been more accurate based on what he's done in other days.
Brian.
And excited to see how that continues to develop, right? As they add more stuff to this and they mix in some of those, even those West Coast, those Thomas Brown, the Todd Downing, those guys have a say in this offense and the quarterback run game, which we're going to get to at some point along in this install. They've already kind of started doing some of that. We heard Drake said he went back and watched Cam Newton, which that fits, Cam with Josh McDaniels in the COVID year. So get to see how all that comes together and really take advantage of Drake's entire skill set there. So that should be fun continuing to watch that evolve throughout training camp and come together.
I'll throw one more quarterback take out there too. Josh Dobbs made some nice throws. It's not Joe Milton. I still think they downgraded it back up, but he made some nice throws.
You know who he is?
Whatever that's worth. Who?
He's Brian Hoyer. It's just like he's like, yeah, I'm a backup, man. I'm a sling this thing.
Hang on. Training camp Brian Hoyer.
I didn't see training camp Brian Hoyer, to be fair. Yeah.
Okay. Training camp Brian Hoyer was a sight to behold. Training camp Brian Hoyer was a thing of beauty. For people who don't know what this is, like Brian Hoyer was in that spot where he knew he was going to be the backup, but he also knew he wasn't going to be the starter, right? So he just went, he was fearless.
Let it rip.
I have never seen a quarterback, thank you, Brian, let it rip more than training camp Brian Hoyer. And he would connect. Like he would, because he was also working against backups. He would find some just insane holes in the defense and plop the ball on there. So
he did it in games, dude, too. Like I've been studying their play action scheme, and he had some throws. Like there's one against the Jets, there's one against the Chiefs
when he rips it down the seam.
Huh?
What games that Brian Hoyer was in?
It was 2020 against the Chiefs when yeah. And then when they blew out the Jets and he came in, dude, he had one to Damiere Byrd where if you pause it, you would have no idea it was a catch. So like it's that he'll sling it, he'll throw into those very tight windows because he knows he has nothing to lose.
Josh Dobbs has taken a good amount of deep shots, I will say.
He has.
Like he hasn't been like shy to push the ball downfield or test things.
So we said we were going to make this quick, and now we're going into a whole I knew it.
Well, I figured your backup quarterback take was going to have to be about Ben Woldridge, but
I did actually talk to him today. I'll have something coming on Ben Woldridge at some point in the next couple days. I want to get a roster projection up and some other stuff first, but I did talk to him today. No, I've talked enough about the ghost reps. People know I like the ghost reps. I think we start with Taylor for that one. Brian, running back take.
I'm excited about Travion Henderson. Just he is as explosive as advertised out there, seeing him in person. I think they're going to use him a lot. He even talked today how useful it was kind of his last year at Ohio State, getting Quinshaw Judkins there and learning like, okay, we're in this together. We're going to be a tandem, right? It's not my backfield. So I'm excited to see how they incorporate him into that, use his pass catching ability. We saw today, it was a coach rushing in non-padded practice, but you saw the awareness and pass pro. So he kind of looks the part. Everything you saw on his Ohio State film kind of translated over there. So I'm excited that they add that explosive playmaker just to this offense and continuing to watch how Josh McDaniels can kind of use him all around the formation, all in different elements and get him involved there.
Taylor.
I'll stick with Travion Henderson because, like, we know what we're getting in Mondre. We know what we got in Antonio Gibson. Landon Larrison's flash, but it hasn't been enough that I feel comfortable, like, really putting his name out there. Like, yeah, there's been some promising things, but we'll see what happens in the summer. But Travion, I mean, he's been in the mix as a returner, and he's second-round pick. He's getting used like a second-round pick. They're not dilly-dallying with where he's going to be used. You have your third down back. And it's really cool to see that they are trusting him in that role and that it seems like, again, Brian, with the blitz pickup rep, he's saying he's studying James White. Very, very smart. Like it seems like he's doing everything he needs to do so far. So yeah, that's encouraging.
I'm with you guys on Travion Henderson. He's in this speed, like getting to see, we were down at field level today because we were inside the bubble. We were really right on the sideline. Like we don't get that close when we're outside, and his speed, it's different. His speed is different. It looks different than everybody else. And he has been very involved, which it seems like is going to be something. I still think Landon Larrison has a spot on this team. I think there's a real chance they keep four running backs. It's not just what he's doing at running back. He just has and this isn't something we saw this spring. This is just like a lasting take. I think he has the physical build and the mentality to play on special teams, which how many guys are we seeing that are like projecting as core specialists? I don't think they're going to keep a lot of those guys. I mean, Schooler will be one, but even he's been working at safety. So it's going to be guys that play everywhere. And I know everybody wants to compare Landon Larrison and Rex Burkett. I've compared him to Brandon Bolden. And I think both in terms of the skill set and what his usage will be, I think that's a comp. Taylor, no.
I just think Bolden was much more powerful. I think Land is more like Danny Woodhead. If any, he feels like more of a Danny Woodhead in terms of like stature. Like he's not really going to pop guys, but he is like strong enough. And I think he can be a special teamer. I'm not saying he can or anything like that, but like I think Bolden was just a little bit more physical.
I wouldn't sleep on Larrison's physicality. I think he can be, and we'll have to see because he's coming from the FCS level. So again, this needs to be,
Bolden was at Ole Miss. Like that was an SEC dude.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like, there's FCS guys that are very Kyle Duggar, D2 guy. He plays physically. So
yes, but I'm just saying, like
he's they
have very different play style. Similar skill sets and strengths and ways they'll be used, but that's one way that I think they do differ.
All right. Tight ends, or no, let's do wide receivers, Taylor. Your one wide receiver takeaway from the spring.
I think we did have a sobering day with Kyle Williams. Like we definitely see he's got the speed. And a lot of those deep balls that Dobbs was throwing were in Kyle Williams' direction. You saw Drake Maye trying to get him involved. There's some back shoulders. He had the go ball. I actually like that he tried to throw the go ball to Kyle Williams against Gonzo because at least there's some level of trust that he has to at least try it, or he's trying to get that underway. But at the same time, one thing about Kyle Williams, as explosive as he is, as impressive as his hands are for a guy who has tiny hands, he has tiny hands. So separation is big for him. He needs to be led. He can make more contested catches than you'd think, but that's not where he's going to make his living. And it felt like today when he was, there was some tight coverage against some veteran Patriots defensive backs. I think you saw that, that separation is going to be important for him. But at the same time, the highlights that we saw from him were what you hope were. Like he can kill linebackers down the seam against cover two. He can win deep on the sideline against certain matchups. So, there's some excitement, but also you saw the limitations, I think, today. So it's good to be like, all right, it's not all hype. We understand that this is a full rounded picture.
My thing with Kyle Williams today, like they're throwing him fades, like corner fades in the end zone and 50-50 balls. Like, no, that's not who he is. Right. Like you got to let him separate in routes with cuts, double moves, things like that. And so I hope that's not their usage plan for him. I get giving him the experience today, but like, that should not be their usage plan for him, how he was used. He's not a traditional big X. Don't throw him the ball. Like, it's funny. I was watching that. Like, those are the routes I was waiting for them to throw N'Keal Harry for years and years and years. Yep. And they kept having him run like 3-cut routes. Like, oh, now you're doing this, right? So let the kid win how he wins, I guess, would be my takeaway from Kyle Williams today. Brian, your wide receiver take.
There's a lot in that room. Efton Chisholm was, I think, the story of the spring, but he had a kind of a quieter last 2 days of minicamp there. So I'll go elsewhere in the slot and go with Pop Douglas. He had an awesome spring and we ended it with 2 really strong days of minicamp. You can see just how well he fits into this Josh McDaniels offense. We know how much that benefits the slot. You even saw his rookie year and a similar thing with Bill O'Brien. So I think he's kind of at home in this system. Josh got him on a linebacker today, and that's just light work for a guy like Pop Douglas. Beats him easily, touchdown over the middle of the field. So I think he's trending in a really good direction right now and could be for a pretty big year in the slot there under Josh.
Yeah, Pop Douglas looks really, really comfortable in this offense, which is good. On Chisholm, not getting the same targets, but he's still out there with Drake Maye, which is still notable. He's gone beyond the typical rookie. All right, we're just going to throw you out there and see how you look to. Okay, we're going to put you in specific situations. We're going to put you with certain players to see how that works. I'll go with Diggs. And look, the boat stuff is still looming, and Mike Vrabel didn't sound super thrilled with him today. Not any more pissed than he was last week, but I still think Diggs is maybe the doghouse a little bit. And honestly, I don't know that a week was enough time to get out of it. I think that's maybe expected, but just on the field, he looks really good. The way he's moving around, 7 months off an ACL, moving the way he is. I'm encouraged by it. I'm willing to buy the hype a little bit. I know that when they signed him, I was kind of the one being like, well, yeah, of course they're going to say he's ready for week 1. That's what the agent's going to say, blah, blah, blah. But man, he's moving good. He looks good.
Like
would it almost be? Oh, I was just gonna say, with the way he's moving and the way he's talking, like, would it almost be a disappointment at this point if he's not ready for week 1?
Yeah,
I think he's not ready for. Job of kind of quelling it today. Like he was like, I'm gonna do what they tell me to do, and that. But to your point, that was the first time I feel like he's really kind of put a wet blanket on the idea that he would play. And then when talking about the full speed, like that pick that Bolden had yesterday, where everyone kind of jokingly runs him down, but then Diggs comes out of nowhere and legitimately doesn't stop until he punches it out. Like that was the first time we actually saw him run full speed, and it was impressive considering he's a 32-year-old who just tore his ACL.
Yeah, no, it's if he's not ready for week 1, you're gonna hear a lot of people bringing up the boat. And was he, doing all that he could to get ready in the spring? I think that's gonna be the
which would
question.
be ridiculous.
That
That will be a ridiculous headline if that comes to fruition.
Brian, tight ends.
There wasn't too much in the tight end room. Hunter Henry, all reliable, but I'll go. Austin Hooper was limited the past couple days or the last 2 weeks. And we talked a lot about, the UDFA class, CJ Dupree, G Scott, but it was Jack Westover who was kind of getting those second reps behind Hunter Henry. So, he's a good athlete, good pass catcher himself. So, you figured a guy like Dupree would get more involved when the pads come on and in the preseason games when he can run block, and that's his strength. So we'll still see there. But right now it feels like Jack Westover is kind of above those guys if they're going to keep a third tight end or depth tight end there.
Taylor.
My takeaway is that Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper need to stay healthy because we have not. Yes, Jack Westover has played a lot. You wouldn't know it.
Been great.
Right. Like I don't think I've written the number 87 down in my notes very often. And that's not necessarily an indictment on him. Like we could look at the tape, maybe actually not even, because if he's getting open, people would throw him the ball more. But like Jaheim Bell has been really disappointing. I feel like the only times we notice him are when something isn't going right. The only positive I can remember is a like diving seam catch he had, which was awesome against Craig Woodson. That was like, yes, keep doing that. And he didn't. So that was really disappointing. CJ Dupree has had some drops and I think he's going to be more of a blocker. That's not the worst thing in the world, but it's a passing camp. And none of the tight ends, I think, stood out in a positive way outside of Hunter Henry, and Austin Hooper didn't really participate. So I don't feel great about the depth in that room at all.
No, that was going to be my take too, is that third tight end battle, there's nothing there right now. And maybe CJ Dupree gets going when the pads come on and he can show his value as a blocker, but that's also a spot we know that they can keep 2 tight ends. And if they want to keep a 6th or 7th receiver, if they want to keep a 10th or 11th offensive lineman or keep another corner or whatever, you can probably get all those guys to the practice squad. Now, all right, you can elevate Jack Westover for 3 games. You can elevate Dupree for 3 games. You can elevate, if they keep Jaheim Bell, G Scott, like you can get through the season with a third tight end like that. So it felt like there were opportunities, especially with Austin Hooper seemingly being limited a little bit this spring, for somebody to kind of step up and make a push for that. I don't think anybody did. All right, Taylor, offensive line takeaway.
I will say Jack Conley. I think he's making this team. He has, so when they split off into 2 units, Jack Conley has consistently been with the starters, and it feels like that Pop Douglas situation, not to the same degree, because Pop was like not participating in team drills as a rookie, which was very weird, but when he did, he was with the starters. But Conley, he hasn't really been in the mix with the top guys, but he's been mixing in, and he seems like anytime it's that second unit, he's there and he's playing multiple spots. He's staying after, working with Morgan Moses, Mike and Wenu, talking to the veterans, just like Will Campbell. He and Will Campbell feel like they've not necessarily glued at the hip, but I feel like they're around each other a lot too, which is smart. Like latch onto each other, grow together, and try to get through this process, the best way you can as a unit. So I think Jack Conley is a guy that people need to start penciling into the roster, because there's guys like City So and who could potentially make it because he is seems like one of the top backups. But with Conley's positional versatility and the fact that he's a UDFA, he's cheap and he's flexible. Those guys, he doesn't seem to make any glaring mistakes, which is hard to say in this time, obviously. But, early on, those kind of guys make the team, and he's, I think, done what he needs to do so far.
Brian.
I always go back to the Doug Marrone connection with him too. The BC ties there that can't hurt his cause, but maybe he factors in at left guard, because I'm still worried about left guard. It's been a rotation all spring, and Vrabel said that competition can't really start till the pads come on, which yes, but Wes Schweitzer was one of the guys who was getting those reps, looked like he could potentially be their starter at left guard, and he retired today after not being at minicamp. So he's out of the equation. Cole Strange has been there the last 2 days, but we know kind of the reliability with Cole Strange and his career so far. So it's a fair second guess of, should they have added another veteran, more experience that you can rely on than Schweitzer in free agency? Or can they find something else on this roster? Can Caden Wallace, kick inside and make a push in training camp at left guard? Can Jared Wilson? He's been limited all spring, but they might need him at center because, Garrett Bradbury got beat for a clean would-be sack today. So
to be fair, it was Keon. That happens a lot. He does that.
But, we know what Garrett Bradbury's season looked like last year in pass protection, right? He was the worst center in the league. So they have some bodies, but I still think that left guard spot is a position of concern right now going into camp.
Yeah, it's wide open. It's completely wide open. And, You look at the contenders, Brian, you did a good job of running it down. Cole Strange is a guy who struggled to stay on the field. City So's mostly been on the right side this spring. Layden Robinson really has not been out there this spring. He's somebody that is probably on the outside looking in at the roster. Jared Wilson, you probably want him developing at center, and he may end up at the end of the day be your best center, although he's got to get healthy for the start of training camp. Jack Connolly, I mean, he's a UDFA. If he wins that, great, but is he winning it because he's the best player and a starting caliber player, or is he winning it by default, which is kind of what happened last year at the tackle position? So it feels a lot like tackle last year. Now it's guard, not tackle, and it's one spot, not two of them. Like I was talking to somebody about this today. You said, how do you feel about the offensive line? I said, a lot better than last year. They said, really, you feel that good? I said, no, I feel a lot better than last year. It doesn't mean that they're where they need to be. It's more an indictment on where they were last year. I think they've come a long way this offseason. They still have a long way to go. In the short term, they're in much better shape, but like long term, they still have some other spots left to fill. But left guard's going to be wide open. Left guard's going to be wide open, and they're going to have to, kind of juggle there. And I wouldn't be surprised if they had another veteran, especially after Wes Schweitzer retired, because it felt like last year at this time of year, I think I was on with Evan, and we were talking about, again, left guard didn't really have one. And I was like, yeah, Michael Jordan might win it just by default because he's the veteran and he has that experience, and look at what happened, right? And this year it felt like Wes Schweitzer was the guy that if nobody steps up, you kind of default to, well, this guy started 60-something games in the NFL, we'll go to him. They don't even really have that guy. How many games, is Tyrese Robinson started at all?
No. He was a rookie last year.
He was a rookie last year.
He played just in the Buffalo game in week 18.
Because he was on practice squad, or like he'd been in the league since 2023.
I don't.
So if
he's been in the league for a few years.
Off the top of my head, City So is their most, or not City So, Cole Strange is their most experienced guard, left guard. Obviously, Mike Owen went on the right side, but like, does City? And
honestly, it's close because Cole's missed so many games. I kind of I don't really know.
Well, City missed a season last year too. Like those are the point being, those are two guys that are still on their rookie contracts. Yeah. Is there anybody in that left guard battle, now that I'm saying it out loud, that isn't on their rookie contract?
Nope.
So it's a kind of shockingly young group that is not tested. And this is an NFL problem as much as a Patriots problem. This is the second, and I know it's a new staff, but it's the second year in a row they're doing this. Yeah, you can have a position battle, but on the offensive line in particular, you don't have a lot of time to make those decisions. There's not a lot of practices you have that you can go off of because they need to be padded practices. They need to be a certain intensity, all of that. So, at least this year it's one spot and it's not 3 or 4, but position battle, ideally you can have a position battle, but it's all right. There's like 2 guys, maybe 3. And, we're looking at this and this guy's the favorite. No, it's completely clean slate. It feels like going into this. All right. We'll get to the defense, but first let's hear from our friends at Prize Picks.
All right. Do you know ball? Because there's only one series left in the playoffs and the championship is officially on the line. That means time is running out for you to put your final takes to the test over on Prize Picks, the best place to cash in on your favorite sports. This year's basketball playoffs are headed towards crowning a first-time champ in more than 50 years. Don't miss on your last chance to cash in on history with Prize Picks, where you just pick more or less on player stats like points, rebounds, assists, and more for your shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash today. Think SGA will get more than 30 points or more than 7 assists. Or you can go over to the ice in the hockey championship as well, and don't overthink it with an Oilers bounce back. Connor McDavid, more than 1.5 points, although the Panthers look like they're doing their thing and mentally destroying the Oilers. So maybe less than Connor McDavid, 1.5 points. But Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this championship season. And don't miss out. Game 3, Pacers, Thunder in the basketball championship. We have a finals free pick. Jalen Williams, more than 0.5 points. All he needs to do is get 1 bucket, 1 free throw, whatever, and that in your lineup cashes right there. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup, all over on Prize Picks. Run your game.
All right, let's get to we have the Jalen Williams pick, or did you say that?
I said that. Jalen Williams.
All right, when the hosts don't
more than half a point.
There it is. When the hosts don't listen. All right. Defensive line. Brian, I think it's your turn.
I think Keon White is going to have a monster season. He has been mostly on the edge. You know, he kicks inside sometimes, like he did today on that one where he beat Bradbury on the Christian Gonzalez interception. But I think he's going to have a really good year. I keep coming back to, you know, he's paired with Mike Smith, the new outside linebackers coach, who's been around a long time. He kind of has that vibe that Keon seems to mesh with pretty well. He's got a history of coaching these big pass rushers, you know, the Tamba Ali's of the world that are kind of built like Keon. So he's had a disruptive spring for as disruptive as these practices can kind of get. So, you know, with all the attention on Christian Barmore and Milton Williams, who have looked really good as well on the interior, like I think Keon White could be in for a big season on the edge there.
Taylor.
Absolutely agree with that one, Brian. Don't sleep on K'Lavon Chaisson. I went into this spring thinking, because of Harold Landry's contract, I figured he was almost never going to leave the field, or they would try to really have him as much of an every down player as they could. Honestly, I'm curious about his use because, like, when you see him in warmups and things, he clearly is like the veteran who already knows what he's doing. So I wonder if they're kind of letting him kind of keep his rest because they know what they're getting and giving Chaisson more reps. But like, Chaisson is on the field in obvious passing situations consistently. And even like not, I was kind of thinking it was going to be Landry and White and then Chaisson mixing in. It's a lot of Chaisson and Keon White. And we didn't see Keon inside a ton early in the spring, but we're starting to see that kind of old role, and he's really starting to get used up and down. So it's kind of hard to, and also we haven't seen Swinson mix in, which is only kind of surprising because with his skill set, you could see him as a situational pass rusher from day one, but also like Chaisson's a former first-round pick who you got for the cheap. If you can keep him for a year, you're going to keep him for a year and not force Swinson to necessarily have to be in the fire and have him as a rotational guy. So I really think that Chaisson it's a passing camp. It's all finesse, and that is where Chaisson thrives, but he's looked good, and really the way he's been used has surprised me. So I have him as a guy whose stock is going up and who I underestimated going into the spring.
Yeah, good takes. A couple other players. First of all, just great seeing Christian Barmore out there, and he seems full go and good to go. And you know, you never know the medical situation, but no limitations. I wouldn't exactly say he was eased back in from what we saw. Like you wouldn't have thought anything. You know, you wouldn't have thought anything of it. You'd think he was being used just like any other player, which is good. Khyiris Tonga. Like super involved, more than just very clear running situations. To putting him out there a little more than that. I just think he's kind of a fun player. I don't know that he needs to play, you know, be one of the most used players on the defensive line, but I think there's maybe more to him than just third and short and goal line. So that's something I'll be keeping an eye on. Yeah, go ahead.
So in this like 4-3 front, like in the past, Godshaw has like been the nose tackle. Like he doesn't leave the field unless it's an obvious passing situation. In this defense, you have Barmore and Milton. So Khyiris Tonga is truly like the nose tackle specialist. So when they go with those 5 down fronts, he's the guy in the middle. And like Isaiah Aiton's the only one behind him. So the role of the true nose tackle is severely reduced in this defense where they want to get upfield. But Khyiris is that guy when you can see them loading up in front. He comes on the field. And I remember Alex, like I remember you saying when he was signed, cool, he better not play too much. And I don't think that he's going to be a guy who plays a ton, but he's going to be the guy where when you play the great running teams, you're really glad you have someone like him who can just keep the middle of the defense secure and open up guys like Williams and Barmore to move around and be in their ideal spots.
I wouldn't hate if they had another nose tackle just for depth. Like you said, it's kind of thin there. I wouldn't hate if they had another one, but it would, to your point, like we saw that role a little more than I thought we would this spring. Maybe that's just what they were working on and it's not reflective of what it's going to look like in season. But I wonder if they're going to like test his athleticism and maybe see if he can help push the pocket from the middle. I wonder if we'll see a little bit, not a ton. Again, I don't want to see a ton of that, but just the way they're using him, I wonder if we see a little bit of it. Do you guys have edge takes? I know we kind of hit on Keon and Chase on there. So go ahead, Taylor.
Well, quick hitters on the defensive line. Anthony Jennings stock down, unfortunately. He's only really repped across from Truman Jones, which is not a good sign. And also just during warmups today, I don't want to read too much into this because I don't know what they were doing. They could have been working on something new, but it seemed like Jennings was having a harder time with some of the moves than other guys who were in that group. And that kind of stood out to me. I don't want to make that a huge deal, but like Keon was kind of helping him, which is odd for a guy who's been in the league for less time. And also Joshua Farmer popped up, not recently, but he had a couple batted practices this spring in limited work. So I also thought that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, Jennings is a true bubble player where like he's a talented NFL player, but does he have a role in this defense? It's going to be interesting to see how that goes throughout the summer. All right, linebackers, Brian.
I'm just kind of disappointed in Marte Mapu. You know, it finally felt like that door was cracked open with Tavai going down and Vrabel's actually playing him at linebacker. He kind of talked this morning that's where they viewed him best, but he's hurt. He's dealing with something because he's been limited all week. I think even last week a little bit he was limited. So, you know, the door's open a little bit there, and he can't capitalize right now because he's banged up again, which, you know, he's dealt with pretty much. Has it been every offseason now? You know, in camp he's dealt with
He's
some.
never been healthy.
Yeah, some sort of injury. He's never been healthy. So just kind of disappointing that, you know, there's a role there. You know, all of us, most of us, I know Taylor hasn't been as hot on seeing him as linebacker, but a lot of us have wanted to see him at linebacker. Felt like that was finally going to happen, but now he's banged up again and can't do that.
Yeah, it's definitely disappointing because everybody knows I like Mapu, and I think he's a talented player, but he's put in some tough spots, and the health thing is huge. Outside of him, though, I like this linebacker room. Today, you had like Monty Rice and Cam Riley making plays, and they never. This is just a room where last year, obviously, like Dante Hightower was his first year coaching with a head coach who was also overwhelmed, like very difficult position to be in. And then the injury to Juwan Bentley just kind of kneecapped this group. So it was a rough year, and I don't want to like harp on it too much. But this year, it feels like this group knows what they're doing. They feel how to schedule, and they make things tough over the middle. Like they weren't giving the running backs underneath anything. Every underneath throw today felt like it was contested. The only person who's like consistently had success on the middle when they're in zone, really outside of like Kyle Williams when they really stress the middle, is like Demario Douglas when they get some mismatches. And even there was one of the linebackers, Jack Gibbons ran with Javon Baker today in cover 2, and it was the same kind of play where Dobbs was able to hit Kyle Williams earlier. So this is a group of really smart players, physical players. Christian Ellis seems like, especially now that there's no Jelani Tavai, he is going to have a big role in this defense. And he's had his losses, but also some impressive wins, like taking away a slot option route to Demario Douglas. So I'm really excited about this room. And also, Jack Gibbons is somebody that I think is much safer than I think people might expect for like his contract. He's on a 1-year deal. Like he's a good player.
Is Jack Gibbons, and that was an impressive play. So Jack Gibbons carried Javon Baker all the way up the field, like to the end zone on the seam. And he had some safety help, but he was still, you know, step for step. Did that tell you more about Jack Gibbons or more about Javon Baker?
I mean, Javon's a good athlete. Like the technique stuff, but he's a good athlete.
Was that the same play as yesterday? Because wasn't Gibbons the one who was trailing Kyle Williams on the deep ball?
Yeah.
Was it? Okay.
So,
but Williams is definitely faster. Like
Williams is absolutely
like
faster.
True four, like
I think it was a better throw yesterday too from Dobbs. I think today's kind of let Baker slow down a little bit as well. But
I also like when they threw the ball yesterday, I was like, yes, Kyle's open. This time when it was Baker, I was like, don't throw that. I don't know how. I don't think he's going to pull away. And he didn't.
My linebacker take, there might be a spot for Jelani Tavai on this team. There might be, and I wasn't expecting that, but they have all these quick athletic linebackers, but they're smaller. They need somebody to come downhill and stop the run situationally. And you might say, couldn't that have been Juwan Bentley? It could have been, but I think it's a tough sell asking a guy who was a 90% usage rate guy and team captain to play like this really smaller rotational role, probably 30% in special teams. And maybe they did ask, and Bentley thinks he can, you know, play more and earn that money elsewhere. So, you know, it's a tough situation, but Tavai is somebody you can plug into that role. I don't think he really has enough cachet to say, no, that role's beneath me. I'm not going to do it. And that I think he can handle. They were asking him to do, and they had to because they had no linebackers, but they were asking him to do so much more than he realistically can do last year. And that's why his play dropped off. If you just have him stopping the run and playing on special teams and, you know, he's out there 10, 15 snaps a game, that's a decent enough role for him. So, Taylor, I think it's your turn, right? Cornerbacks. Give me a cornerback take.
Christian Gonzalez is very good. That seems unfair.
That might be the take of the spring, like regardless of position.
If you kicked to me first, I was going to say, can I just pencil him in for all pro again right now? Cause that's where it looks like it's trending.
I mean, like that interception today was so easy. And like literally Drake said yesterday, I cannot have to be careful. I'm going to test him. But, you know, if he's over the top, I'm throwing it back shoulder. This was the first time that Drake threw a ball at Gonzo. I was like, that is not smart. And he just goes up. Like, it literally looked like a dad playing with those little basketball sets with their kid. It just looked so easy. And one thing I wanted to see from him this year was getting better in zone and making more plays on the ball. And part of that is opportunities. But it feels like he's setting up to have a very productive season when it comes to making plays on the ball.
Yeah, he looks like he might take another step. And again, he's second team All-Pro last year. So another step, you're talking about him being in the conversation. And look, I think he's a top 5 corner in the NFL. Just based off last year, what we've seen, this is not projecting ahead. There's still a couple guys he take over him, right? Over him, Patrick Surtain, clearly at the top of that list. Like the next step is debating Christian Gonzalez and Patrick Surtain.
Yep.
And does he?
Because Surtain is better in zone and Gonzo's better in man. But if Gonzo can get the experience to get better in zone,
like that's the next jump. It's going from, he's debating whether or not he's one of the better corners in the league, which I think he is, but that's what people are debating. Goes from debating, is he one of the better corners in the league to is he the best corner in the league? And so, great spring for him. He looks good. He's moving well. Let's remember, full off season. Didn't have that last year. It was rehabbing. Full off season, so that helps. One other corner take. People are trying to make Marcus Jones maybe getting cut a thing. That's not a thing. It really shouldn't be a thing. They're playing him in the slot. They're playing him on the boundary. He's still going to bring that special teams value. Josh McDaniels is itching to wrinkle him in on offense. Whether or not they re-sign him after this year is another story. They want bigger corners and maybe they part ways after this year and he's not a guy they want to pay. But I don't think he's somebody they're going to shoo off the roster either. And he's going to be here and he's going to have a role. And I think Alex Austin becomes this interesting chess piece where we know he can play on the boundary and he can be that third boundary corner behind Gonzalez and Davis. And then they were working him in the slot. So if he can also be your backup slot corner behind Marcus Jones, that probably saves you a roster spot that, again, maybe that's that 6th wide receiver or 4th running back or extra tackle or whatever. So those are, I don't know if you guys want to talk about any other corners, but that's kind of what I saw at that position.
No, Austin was kind of the one because I feel like it's obviously Gonzalez and Carlton Davis, and then with Marcus looking like he has at the nickel spot, like the 4th cornerback spot, I thought was kind of open, and they have Alex Austin, Marcellus Dial they drafted last year, they draft Kobe Minor this year. Isaiah Bolden's still in the mix, but it does seem like Austin has taken a small step in front of those guys, and that versatility has a big thing to do with that.
Yeah, I think it's Austin. And I think it's Austin and the rest of those guys battling for maybe if there's another job. I'll throw this in there too. I know people got hot and bothered when Jair Alexander got released the other day. I don't get it. Like, he's not a slot corner. If he played the slot and he's like a clear upgrade over Marcus Jones, I'd get that. But he's a pure boundary corner. You have Gonzalez and Davis out there. And I know people say, depth, he's better than Alex Austin. For what you're going to pay him, and also for his role, like, you're going to piss somebody off. Like, if you sit Carlton Davis for Jair Alexander after he signed that contract and came here to be a starter, like, now it's not going to work in the room, right? So, you want to talk to me about Trey Hendrickson. You want to talk to me about TJ Watt. I don't think either one are getting moved, but you want to talk to me about those guys. Fine.
Ramsey?
So,
slot corner.
Or safety, honestly, at this point in his career. So, like, somebody like that makes more sense. Or if you're going after those, like, big names, again, it's Hendrickson, it's Watt, where, they have some nice pass rush pieces. We just talked about it, but they don't have that, lead pass rusher, clearly. You can talk to me more about that. Look, if Jair Alexander wants to come here for the veteran minimum and be the 3rd corner, I wouldn't say no, right? Great. That's not what he wants. He wants to start, and is he going to start here? If he is, what does that mean for Carlton Davis? I don't think that one makes any sense. Ramsey, maybe. Ramsey, if he's going to play in the slot or play some deep safety, which we've seen a lot of good corners, especially zone corners, right, become deep safeties later in their careers and be good at it. I'd be in for that. But, I just don't think Jair Alexander, it's the one spot where you can be like, no, I think they're good. They're fine. That and quarterback, I guess. Or it's like, they're fine. They probably don't need another body.
Yeah. And I'll just say one more thing on Marcus Jones as someone who did think he might get cut because of the size. Like, he is a massive outlier for what Mike Vrabel has had at slot corner in the past. And the injury history, I was kind of like, we know he doesn't like soft tissue stuff. How is he going to feel? But I figured that if Marcus Jones like made it to camp and really had a chance to compete, he'd be fine. Because he's one of their best run defenders, like on the entire defense, which is crazy. And we know how competitive he is. He showed it today where Kyle Williams looked like he had a touchdown, but nope, the second coming of John Jones made sure that wasn't the case and dislodged it at the last second. So I'm glad that Marcus Jones did get a chance because he is one of their better players. Even if he is undersized, he's going to give up plays. But like from a play style perspective, from a mentality, versatility, like he really is everything you want in a player outside of the health concerns and, being a smaller guy.
Brian, safety take?
I've been impressed with Craig Woodson. He had the interception early in OTAs, and then he didn't have any others. If I'm remembering correctly, but he just was around the ball a lot, and he had another one today, a pass breakup in Jaheim Bell's area, and he's been mixing in a good amount with that safety group, which is very deep. It'll be interesting to see just how that whole room kind of shakes out, right? Because Jalen Hawkins is playing a lot. Marcus Epps, who was rehabbing early, got kind of more involved today, and we haven't even seen Kyle Duggar because he's rehabbing. So they have a lot of bodies in there, but Woodson was all around the ball a good amount this spring.
Taylor.
Woodson's going to have a role on this team. I think he's going to be like what they hoped Marte Mapu would be to a degree. I will say Jalen Hawkins, unless Kyle Duggar comes back and like is on a tear, I think he makes the team. And I did not think that before. But
even if Duggar does come back, just his depth, like they're putting him out there like the guy that's going to have a role.
For sure. And like Pettis makes it tough. They signed Marcus Epps. He's been mixing in. Like that's, first of all, it's like safety, like linebacker has a lot of guys that I think can play. But that's the thing. Like, yeah, you're right. I think Hawkins really probably makes the team regardless. He's gotten so much work in. It would be very odd if someone who's worked in as much as him didn't make the team. Like he'd be a very big surprise cut at this point. Yeah. And he hasn't made any mistakes. Like I don't remember really being like, oh, there's Hawkins, where I don't think he's a playmaker or anything, but I think he's an average player, and that's fine. Like there's a place for average players in this league. If your Kyle Duggar's hurt, you can slide into Jalen Hawkins, and he's not a massive, target for the defense. So another guy I didn't think was going to make this team, but he is almost not virtually locked. That's a bit much, but he's as close as someone in his position can be.
He's out there a lot. And you also wonder, when Marcus Epps, if he's fully healthy from the knee, does that shift? I kind of hoped we'd see more Marcus Epps. I don't know how healthy he is, but no, I like what I've seen from Craig Woodson. I like what I've seen from Hawkins, but what's it going to look like, right? Because with Duggar not out there, you see where guys are slotting in now, but like when Duggar comes, like who's the deep safety basically is what I'm getting at, right? Because Craig Woodson looks good. I've been surprised by Craig Woodson. He's been good, but he looks good kind of in the box, covering tight ends, that sort of thing. He's not playing center field. Is it going to be Duggar back there? Is it going to be Jabril Peppers? Is it going to be Marcus Epps? Is it going to be Jalen Hawkins? Like it's probably going to be a rotation, but I'm curious once Duggar's back in the fold, what does that all look like? Sorry, Taylor, do you have something?
Well, they've used Woodson I think they've used him everywhere. That's what I was saying. Like he seems
but that's the thing. They've used him everywhere. They have a they don't have a full-time free safety again, is my point.
I think Hawkins feels like he's probably the guy. I still think Peppers is. I don't know why people act like Peppers is a bad free safety. He's too small.
He's not a bad free safety, but he's much
too small to live
in
the box. He's too small to live in the box.
But he plays bigger than he is. He plays
yes, but like as a strong. So I like him as a big nickel slot. Like in the box, that's his best role. If it's a passing situation, you want Duggar and Woodson maybe. Actually, Woodson, I kind of like a free safety because he got small hands, but he can do everything. But in like those obvious pass situations, I think Pepper should be back there. But I do agree, he does play bigger. So when he's in the slot and he can blitz and do all that stuff and no one can get outside of him, I think that's where he's best. And when Duggar comes back, I think that Woodson maybe he does take over as that free safety, honestly.
But like he looks good in man. I want him kind of up at the line in man. That's the thing. Like they're all a lot of these guys
against the Patriots tight ends. We just complained about.
He had a breakup on Henry today. A lot of these guys are good deep safeties, but they're better at something else. And I just want players playing where they're at their best. And I don't even need Devin McCourty, but like Daron Harmon, right? Can I get Daron Harmon and maybe that's Jalen Hawkins? Brian, kickers or specialists?
I'll name Andres Borregales the week 1 starting kicker. Bold, I know, but he's been very good throughout the spring. 19 of 20 through the 5 open practices. They went back for range again today, ending around 50, 51 yards, and he was perfect. So he was very impressive, very consistent, which again is that buzzword Jeremy Springer used a lot talking about him. So Borregales stock up in the spring.
Taylor.
I have nothing to say about Julian Ashby, and that's a good thing because he's a long snapper.
There we go.
You help us with that one, because what I'm going to do here, I know I said I'd open it up for people to ask us about names that we didn't get to, but I think we got to a good chunk of the 90-man roster. So I'm going to roll through this right here real quick, and let's see if there's any names that even in passing that we didn't bring up. Christian Gonzalez. Did we bring up Jalen Polk? Did anybody say Jalen Polk?
No.
I don't think so.
What would we say?
Real quick, somebody give me a Jalen Polk take.
I think they want him involved. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I was just gonna say you better be healthy at training camp.
Yeah, he's gonna be playing catch up at training camp. That doesn't help him because he's squarely on the bubble. Demario Douglas, Antonio. Did we talk about Antonio? Yeah, I brought up Antonio Gibson. Jabril Peppers. We just brought up Javon Baker, Carlton Davis, Stefon Diggs, Kayshon Boutte, Drake Maye, Josh Dobbs, Mac Hollins. Anybody got a Mac Hollins take?
He's either going to start on PUP and continue to be an assistant coach, or if he plays, I think he's going to be the starting Z on early downs and like an extra.
He's going to be the Z. Interesting.
Yeah. He's a big dude. Did you see the blocking cut up that I put last night?
You can block at the X.
Huh? The X is outside the numbers. That Z is literally built to be near the formation. That's Jules's role.
So where's Diggs then, if he's healthy and out there?
I think he's a passing down Z slot. Or like slot and maybe like I just think in formations, like you want Diggs kind of further away and not blocking. And I think Hollins, you want blocking as much as possible because that dude is crazy. Like his blocking tape is so fun. And they've also mentioned using his cut-ups for teach tape. Like Todd Downing's mentioned it, Pop's mentioned it. So like Mac Hollins is someone that they do value.
It's funny because there wasn't that much about the injury when he signed, and now it's like, is he going to be? I hope he's healthy in camp. That's a guy like that. If he's not going to be able to get out there and get the work in with Drake Maye in the summer, and then he misses 4 weeks, I worry that that's the season for him. Robert Spillane, Marte Mapu. Anybody got a Josh Minkins take? Josh Minkins?
No.
I feel like he made a play yesterday. He had a pass.
Number 16, UDFA safety from Cincinnati.
Oh, no, I was thinking of Crossley. I
think he had a red zone pass breakup yesterday where we can give him his flowers if he did. Let me see if I can.
I'll check my notes. I think you're right.
Yes.
There we go.
Who's 80? One of the G Scott. G Scott.
Yeah, you're right.
Broken up by 16, Josh Minkins. So there you go.
There you go.
Well done. Good pull.
I don't think we brought up Bryce Behringer. I had him clocked for a couple 5+ punts, so he looks really good this spring. Ben Woolridge we brought up, Kyle Williams, Kobe Minor, Jalen Hawkins, Marcus Epps, Kyle Duggar, Dale Pettis, Marcus Jones. Anybody got a Terrell Jennings take?
No, I have not noticed him at all.
No.
He's number 26, and I keep double taking Sony Michel. It's been years.
I do too.
To be fair to Terrell Jennings, though, like if you remember my thing from last year, what was my thing with? Anybody remember my thing with Terrell Jennings from last year?
Angry or mean?
He runs hard. Terrell Jennings runs hard. So tough to do that non-contact practice. We'll check back in with him in the summer. Marcellus Dial, Alex Austin, Isaiah Bolden. Anybody got a Jeremiah Webb take? Wide receiver number 29?
Him and I'll give you two. Your next two, Jeremiah Webb and Demir. We can't have wide receivers in 29 and 30. Like
Demir Blankum,
I don't know if we can switch that before training camp, but the 29 and 30 just do not work on wide receivers.
Well, the Packers have a corner wearing 80 now.
The Packers, isn't Matthew Golden wearing 22 or something like that?
Yeah, so they're going to cover each other, and everybody's just going to think it's picked off.
The Packers just don't know what they're doing.
That sounds awful.
I will say this for Blankum, the guy, like,
he's quick.
In every single rep, he's going 120%. Like and we get down kind of close to the receivers compared to some of the other positions. You can hear like the huffing and puffing, all that. He is doing all he can to make this team. DJ James, anybody have a DJ James take?
I feel like he made some plays early in OTAs.
Corner number 30. All right.
Yeah, I think he was competitive in OTAs.
Travion Henderson, Anthony Jennings, Leon Larison, Borregales, Parker Romo. I guess that cuts in with the Brian named Borregales the starter. So that's a Romo take. Somebody did mention Brandon Crosley, Ramondre Stevenson, Jordan Polk. How about Jordan Polk?
I got nothing for you.
Haven't noticed him. Also, a rule of thumb, really quick rule of thumb for anybody who's watching. If you don't hear us talk about somebody, More often than not, it's because we don't have anything to say.
All right.
I remember I used to wonder that all the time as a fan. Like, why aren't they talking about this guy?
We're only at number 37. Thanks for ruining
Taylor. Thanks for stealing the punchline for the end of this segment. That was the whole point of this. I do have a Jordan Polk take. Jordan Polk, I said before, they don't really have a true free safety, and that bugs me. Jordan Polk is a true free safety. He can play some slot too, but he was a full-time free safety last year. We've seen safeties kind of have a late rise. That's what happened with Del Pettis. We're doing this exercise last year. Del Pettis would have been somebody we were scrambling for, and he made the team. Or 2 years ago, whenever Del Pettis was a rookie. So there's Jordan Polk take. Brendan School, we mentioned. Cam Riley had a pass breakup today. I'll give you Cam Riley take. Braden Swinson, Caleb Von Chason, Monty Rice also had a pass breakup today. Okay, here's one we probably should have gotten to. Brock Lampy. Who has Brock Lampy take?
He hasn't done anything. He's played fullback, but Westover's the starter at fullback more often than not.
Yeah, but like for the Josh McDaniels fullback, Lampy's a much better fit.
Yeah, but we have nothing to say in passing.
He's been out there though. Like
he's been out.
He's not getting thrown the ball, but he's a fullback. But he's been out there.
There's two of them. There's two of them, and it's a major part of the scheme. So like if Westover's on the line, that's the only time I've seen him in the backfield. That's the only reason I say it.
I just think that's another guy we'll check in on. I think in the summer, but I'm not rolling him out. I love roster spot.
Pads.
Yeah.
Julian Ashby, Jelani Tavai, Travion Williams. Here's my Travion Williams take. He spells it differently than Travion Henderson, and I keep getting them mixed up.
It's annoying. Yeah.
It's tough.
Also, the number 49 for a regular running back is so odd.
Well, but so the thing is, he's one of the he doesn't really play offense. He was like a core special teamer for the Bengals the last few years. If they are if they are going to keep some of those core special teams guys, we talked about this earlier. He's somebody that maybe surprise sneaks on because he just has experience doing that. Jack Gibbons, Marcus Bryant, Christian Ellis, Truman Jones, Tyrese Robinson, Jared Wilson, Vidarian Lowe, Wilfred Panay. Anybody got a Wilfred Panay take?
He's been limited pretty much all spring, so not much for
He's a regular on my limited list. That's what I know.
City So, Mekhi Butler. Anybody got a Mekhi Butler take? Another guy in the mix at guard.
There's a spot to win that guard, so maybe when the pads come on.
He looks like a nice guy, but I've never noticed him on the field.
Layden Robinson, Garrett Bradbury, Will Campbell, Isaiah. We did get an Isaiah Ayton mentioned. Cole Strange, Caden Wallace. Did we? Yeah, we talked about Caden. Onwenu, Schweitzer, Jack Connolly, DeMontre Jacobs, Morgan Moses, Ben Brown. Ben Brown's right on the bubble too. And it's interesting with Ben Brown to me because I've said this. I think if Jared Wilson wins the job, I don't think Garrett Bradbury's here as a backup. He's just too established in the league. So Ben Brown's probably rooting big time for Jared Wilson because then Ben Brown becomes the backup center, just in my mind. G. Scott, we did mention Austin Hooper, CJ Dupree, John Giles. John Giles might have made the catch at camp, honestly. There was this one throw, they were throwing it to him on a crosser, and it was tipped at the line, and the ball total 90 degree, and he adjusted and totally parallel to the ground, one arm with the fingertips made the catch. Later in that practice, he had a ball hit him square in the hands that he dropped that turned into an interception. So those kind of cancel out. But I don't know. Do you guys have a John Giles take? I know there's a couple John Giles truthers out there. So yeah.
Well, I mean, if you were on scene for rookie minicamp when he was in his second year, come on, but
dominated rookie minicamp.
I like the just athletic build to have him on your practice squad, right? I think he's a good practice squad receiver just to give your corners looks of a 6'3" guy who can move really well. So
yeah.
Looks the part but doesn't play the part is the definition of a practice squad player.
Yep. Kendrick Bourne, Hunter Henry, Efton Chisholm, Jack Westover, Jaheim Bell, Christian Barmore. Taylor, you're a big Elijah Ponder guy. Anything on Elijah Ponder?
He's been stuck. Would you understand why? He's an undrafted free agent. They've got veterans but he and Swinson have been on the same line, which is slightly encouraging. I don't know, but he hasn't actually. No, he has flashed a few times as a pass rusher, honestly. But at that point, there's only so much you can take away when you're going up against the third string tackle.
Right.
So,
and it's also these unpadded practices. That's another guy put a bookmark in for the summer. Joshua Farmer had that one day where he was batting down every pass.
Got him pass 2 days in a row on one of his first reps, I think, of both days.
Another guy that again probably needs to do more in the summer, just padded practices. Jahvaree Ritzie. Anybody got a Jahvaree Ritzie take? No. Come on, we can't get stumped. We got 5 players left. Is
Ritzie the one from UNC?
Yes.
He actually does look like a good athlete. I would like to see him with the pads on because I remember watching his UNC tape. I thought he had an interesting tweener play skill set. All
right, we've had a take for everybody so far. At this point, I wasn't letting us get stopped there.
Is there any other pod that can do that? Honestly, they can give me
Exactly. This is why the people tune in. Did anybody say Jaquelin Roy?
He's been limited too.
Yeah, he isn't.
But I mean, come on, that's Taylor's guy. We got to fire off some take here.
Taylor, you got Jaquelin Roy take?
I mean, if Jaquelin Roy is healthy, he is your second nose tackle.
All
if you want one, there's gonna. I don't even know if there's room for that, but at least practice squad. He's a good player.
So it could be him, or it could be, as I go past Kyrus Tong and Milton Williams, who we mentioned, Jeremiah Farms. Is that maybe a battle, Farms and Roy for the second TT spot?
I think Farms and Farmer are like the backups at D-tackle. Like that's the top combo after them. Jaquelin is more nose tackle. He does have some defensive tackle flexibility. I just need to see him on the field, honestly, to know how this regime sees him before I do anything. But Farms and Farmer feel like they're in good spots heading into this summer.
And then Keon White's number 99. There we go. You're not getting that coverage anywhere else. The entire roster, you got to take on every single player on the team in this show as we wrap up the spring. Thanks so much to everybody for tuning in. Brian, this is our second show of the week, right? No.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So me and Brian will be back next week with the Patriots beat as we enter the dead season. We'll find some way to have fun with it. Taylor, what are you doing without Mike, man?
Without Mike, you mean like I was when I first got here? I'm good. I got coverage coming. I'm TBD on tomorrow, but I definitely have something coming Thursday, so watch out for that.
You can also find stuff to read. Taylor's on CLNSmedia.com. Brian's on PatsPulpit.com. I'm on 98.5thesportshub.com. Thanks so much to everybody for tuning into this one, and we will talk to you next time.